Are you ready to explore the unknown? Dive into the world of the strange, mysterious, and unexplained with Eerie Expeditions magazine. Each issue is packed with spine-tingling tales, cutting-edge paranormal investigations, and exclusive insights into hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or just love a good ghost story, Eerie Expeditions magazine has something for you. Join our growing community of truth seekers and adventure lovers. Subscribe today at EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com and unlock the secrets of the supernatural. Are you ready? That's EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com, where the extraordinary is just a click away. Dare to discover.
Welcome to the Gateway, broadcasting live from the bluffs of the Rockies, where the strange slips through the cracks. We are live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. I'm your host this evening, C.L. Thomas. Tonight we're heading into the shadows of Chicagoland with a guest who has spent more than a decade investigating some of the Midwest's most legendary paranormal locations. But before we get into that, you've been listening to Sean Callie with Into the Night, right here on United Public Radio Network 107.7. I think Sean is out of the office. He played a replay, which I didn't even know about that, but he did. I'm sure he'll be back on Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, so you can catch him live then. I hope Sean's okay out there, wherever he is. Hello, everyone out there, wherever you are. If you're out listening, I know there's a lot of different channels out there listening to the station. If you want to, on my YouTube channel or even on a radio station, please put where at in the country that you are listening from. It is currently 115 degrees in the valley. However, I am no longer in the Mojave Desert, guys. I moved out of Las Vegas. So I'm now broadcasting from a new location just east of the Rockies in Wyoming, my new home for now. It's an interesting area that I'm living in. So last summer, I have a couple friends that already live here. And they reported that they saw, well, a group of people actually saw a UFO right here in the middle of town. There's a big park here, and right in the middle of town, they saw this UFO in broad daylight. Now, they described this thing as like a round golden object that kind of just sat in the sky. And it's a big park, but it's not that big of a park. It's like one of those, it's a normal city park, right? So they described this thing as just sitting in the above ground so many feet, and then this thing just shoots up in the air and disappears. Now, the town's not very big, mind you, but there are several accounts of people in this park, not all related, that have seen this object. What's interesting about this is that sightings like this are always associated with nuclear missile sites. Not far from where I am, believe it or not. You know, I used to live near Area 51, but now I am very close to a Minuteman silo. It's part of the old Delta 1, I think it's 01 through 09 sites. There's like a series of them, and there's one not even 10 miles from me. Historically, Minuteman missile sites are connected to UFO sightings through a series of Cold War era incidents that were identified as unidentifiable crafts. And people report that these things would be hovering, and this goes back all the way to the 60s. Reports of these things kind of hovering over active nuclear silos. In one case, it even deactivated one of the sites. So now, the one near where I am, it is inactive, but people in town report seeing unidentified objects. Most recently from last summer, I kind of question, are these sites still being monitored from otherworldly beings? It's a good question, right? Another interesting thing about this area that I'm living in is you can almost see it. There's a mountain here called Medicine Mountain. and it's held sacred by numerous tribes throughout the centuries. Supposedly, it is home. Get this: it's home to little people. So I'm gonna love exploring what this is, but I plan to do some hiking and stuff up there. When visiting this mountain, people often say that they have visions and strange phenomena happen to them. In fact, areas surrounding Medicine Mountain are famous for missing hikers and hunters over the years, and many of these people have never been found. So, more to come on that. I'm going to find some guests that are well known in the area for this missing people and the little people. So, stay tuned for that. There's lots to explore out here. Not to mention, I have access to Jackson Hole, one of my favorite places in the United States. So, tonight we're heading into the shadows of Chicagoland with a guest who has spent more than a decade investigating some of the Midwest's most legendary paranormal locations. Neal Gibbons is the founder of Graveside Paranormal. He's a researcher, he's a speaker, he's an event host, planner, and he's known for exploring history, folklore, and unexplained mysteries surrounding sites such as Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Resurrection, Mary Witch. I'm really interested in hearing about that. The Roff House, and many others. He draws on more than 30 years of experience and with the Cook County Sheriff's Department. And you know what? He told me a little story just before getting on the air. We were chit-chatting backstage, and he was telling me about a possession that he had. So very interested in hearing about that, if he's allowed to tell the story, that is. We shall see. And let's get him on here. Let me find where he's at. Neal, welcome.
Oh. Thanks for having me, CL.
Thanks for being on the air. You know, I accidentally said the name of your...
That's fine. Don't worry about it. It is what it is.
So does that mean you can't tell the story now, can you?
No, I can tell the story. That's what I do. I tell stories.
So you told me a little story about a possession.
So, yeah. All right. So I worked for a certain sheriff's department in the Illinois area. And I dealt with psych inmates for 22 of those years. And I knew my job. And we came across a guy once. Now, the story that I'm going to tell you is because I've come across possession before. But in my professional life, I came across one. And I found it so surprising. But I'm a big believer in there's a fine line between some sort of attachment, and I say the word attachment, or possession, and a psych disorders. Some people agree and disagree, but I've talked to different psych workers as well as psychiatrists, and some of them will say, majority of them will say, yeah, there is a fine line. And as we get closer to the Roff House story, I'll repeat again about how there's a fine line between many things, because we're still in the infant stage of psychiatry. Because it didn't really start happening to the mid-1800s. So moving on back to this story here. What happened was there was this big kid. He was brought into the county jail. And I was working in the psych ward at the time. And the nurses and the psych workers said, hey, Gibby. Now, everybody goes by last names. And my last name is Gibbons, and my nickname is Gibby. Okay, that's what my nickname was, Gibby. They go, Gibby, go downstairs. There's this guy down there. He is scary as hell. Go down there. You got to bring him up. Just put him in the cell. We do not want to deal with him at all. And I said, all right, I go, I got this. It's not that I'm a tough guy. It's just I know my job, and I've done it for so long. So I'm very familiar with following along and getting jobs done. So I went downstairs towards the ER part, and there he was. This kid was big. I would say he was about 25 to 30 years of age. He was very intimidating looking by his size. And I started walking closer to him. I could see that he was tired. But the first thing I noticed was the smell of a burnt rubber tire. For me, I've come across this before, but not a professional thing. Whereas the smell of a burnt rubber tire is a sign for me of there's some kind of attachment or possession going on in someone. So
now, usually it's a sulfur smell, right?
Right, but for me, it's a smells. For me, it smells like a burnt rubber tire. Like you've gone past those. If you're going down a highway and you smell those yards that have the burning rubber tires, and burning all those damn things, right? So I smelled it right off the bat, and I said, damn. I go, oh, it's going to be one of them nights. So I was quite surprised. And so I started hitting up a conversation. When we started talking, I could see that he was very slow in the way he talked and the way he responded. So I just started hitting up a conversation. We started talking about superheroes. And he goes, mine's Spider-Man. I go, mine's Batman. He goes, oh, I love Batman too. I said, all right, dude. I go, do you want to go to sleep? He goes, yeah, I'd like to go to sleep, please. I said, all right. So I'm going to take you upstairs. I'm going to put you on a mattress and you're going to go to sleep. Like, oh, thank you. So had the handcuffs and shackles on, We go over to the elevator. I'm holding conversation. The whole thing is keeping that social conversation going, keeping people calm and steady. So we go up there and we start walking towards the main door. One of my guys already has the door open for us to walk into what we call 2 North. And then the cell was open. The nurses are like this, Jibby, put him in there, right? These people were freaked out by this guy. And I said, all right, no problem. So I took off the handcuffs and the shackles. I said, you want to go lay down? He goes, yeah. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he goes like this, we like you. I said, oh, weird. I go, oh, I like you too, because I want to keep him calm. And he's like, yeah. And he goes inside there. He goes, lays it down, as we call it, go lay it down. Close the cell door. He goes to sleep. A couple weeks go by, and this kid is still up on this unit. And he's up on this unit, and I wasn't working there this day, but a report was written. And I'm going to keep it word verbatim of what the report was. This is other officer. The inmate was pounding on the cell door saying, hey, man, someone's in here. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. Save me. And he goes, man, nobody's in there. We keep him in a single cell so he cannot harm himself or others. So he was in there, and the officer noticed, and it's in the report, he noticed nothing but the whites of his eyes when he went to go talk to him. He said there was no pupils. He said it was nothing but the whites of his eyes. The officer got distracted. He went to another cell because 2 guys were fighting inside of a cell. When he came back to this cell, this young man between 25, 30 years old was laying on his stomach with his foot in the toilet, verbatim to the report, right? That he was laying there. They found him unconscious, unresponsive. He was dead. Nobody was inside that cell with him whatsoever. All investigators were called. Everybody who needed to be called came out there. I was taken off to the county morgue. After that happened, I found out that because I knew people, and they were telling me, yeah, he goes, the autopsy came back. He had bruising all throughout his body, like on his skin and stuff, right? Now, as you know, when people are having an internal battle with some form of possession, the body takes hold as well. That's where the oppression kicks in, right? It's where your body is breaking down after the infestation, and it starts to break down physically. Now, and they did review cameras. Hey, did somebody whoop this guy? Did somebody do something? And they said nobody did. But when they did the autopsy, bruising all over his body. And when that happened, he was already 2 weeks in.
Now, was it possible that he was inflicting self-harm?
Sure. Yeah. There's always that chance that he could have been doing self-harm. But as far as I know, it was throughout his whole body, which also means the backside as well. We did it in those kinds of cells. There's cameras inside those cells. So psych workers or nurses would have noticed something like that because they're in front of the cameras all the time. So if he was doing something that was completely outrageous, they would have went in there with some kind of medication for him to calm him down. So, is it possible? Sure. But I don't think it happened because of the way we had it set up. Because the nurses would have gone in there with a psych worker and they would have calmed him down. So, but this isn't where our story ends. So after that happened, about 2 weeks, we were able to open up the cell again. And we had another young man who came in, and I was here for that night. We put him down in a thing called FLRs, full leather restraints, where we tied him down to the bed because he was either going to commit suicide or try to harm someone else. So we cannot have him as a threat, right? So what happened is that during about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know why it's always 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he started screaming. He goes, "Get this such and such out of here!" And I go in there. I go, "Dude, nobody's in here with you." He goes, "No, there's this big kid." He gave a full physical description of our first guy, who I told you about. He said he's playing with my toes at the end of the bed. He said he keeps rubbing my toes. Get him out of here. And he gave the full physical description of the young man I was telling you about in the beginning. After we exited out of that cell, all the book bags started flying off of the desk. They just like flew off. My lieutenant called me and said, "Hey, Gibby, what in the holy heck is going on down there?" And I said, "You remember that guy I told you about?" I go, "You remember a couple of weeks ago he passed?" I said, "I told you that dude was possessed." You guys all laughed and joked. He said, "Gibby just doing his tours." I said, "I'm telling you, man." And I really still believe to this day that there was something paranormal, supernatural that did happen with that individual. But that is a true story that happened there.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you sent me a bunch of different locations that you wanted to talk about tonight, such as Bachelor's Grove. There's
go ahead.
There's several of them. There's I forget the name of it. Mary Roff, and then there's
Lorancy Venom.
Yes. Where do you want to start?
We can start there. Yeah, the Roff House. 1846. There is a young girl by the name of Mary Roff. She's about 17 or 18 years of age. This girl was mislabeled. She was very clairvoyant. And once again, we'll get into how it was very early in psychiatry. And this young girl, she started having abilities where she was talking with the dead and having these deep conversations, and she would go in and out in trances. To get away from some of the pain, she would cut into her arm to alleviate the pain.
That's so sad.
Yes, it is. And she had a scar that was on her arm. Her parents at the time decided to send her to an institution. The mentality back then was save the parents, put away the kid. So they sent their daughter to an institution, a mental institution, where therein she died there. They would put her in cold baths, hot baths, cold and hot and hot and cold. The way that they had a lot of these things back in that day, it was just evil. They had these little cribs that they would jam people inside of. This young girl, think about this for a second. This young girl, her mom and dad put her away inside this place. How heartbroken as a parent you are, how heartbroken you are as that child. Because an 18-year-old to me is still just a child. And
for the most part, though, they thought they were doing the right thing at the time.
Oh, yeah. They thought that they were doing, because that was the mentality. That was the mentality. If you were to do that today, I don't think people would truly have that same mentality. People didn't really truly understand certain things. Now, what happened was, after the fact, the father, Asa Roff, who admitted his daughter there, actually became a spiritualist after that. When the spiritualist movement started really happening back in the 1860s onward to the early 1900s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a house built in Watseka, Illinois, and he built it upon spiritualism. And he really understood after the fact of his daughter's death that there was something more to his daughter than just maybe a psych issue. So in the same community, this is just what's so odd. In the same community, only 4 to 6 blocks away, about 16, 18 years later, a girl by the name of Lorancy Venom is inhibiting the same clairvoyant abilities, or similar to what Mary Roff had. And the same episode is going to happen. But he intervenes with Dr. Winchester Stevens, who is he's a psychiatrist, he's a doctor, and he's a hypnotist. He goes over to the parents' house and asks them, hey, this is what happened to my daughter. Can we bring her over to our house? He explained to them what they were going to be doing. Dr. Winchester Stevens hypnotized this girl. When he hypnotized this girl, different spirits were coming and going in and out of her body, what we call a walk-in. A walk-in is a thing where spirits can come in and out of a body. It's not really a demonic thing. Spirits, ghostly spirits, can come in and walk through people who are very clairvoyant, as we talk about like seances and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually called a walk-in. There's really nothing demonic about it. So as he was cycling through, all of a sudden this girl comes in and identifies herself as Mary Roff. And she recognizes everybody in the house, and she looks at her arm. She says, this isn't my arm. She goes, my arm's in the grave. She goes, my arm has a big cut right down. Now, Lorancy Venom did not know this. This is the first documented possession in America. I actually think it's a spiritual miracle. What happened was she identified herself, started playing the piano, which Lorancy Venom could not do, started telling family secrets, which Lorancy Venom did not know. And she had said also that Lorancy Venom will be in heaven for 100 days. After that 100 days, she will come back healed, and she will live a long life. So for 100 days inside the Roff House in Watseka, Illinois, Mary Roff inhabited the body of Lorancy Venom. This is all documented in a book called The Watseka Wonder. I recommend people to read the book. It's a very interesting story. They could have embellished it. Of course, you want to sell a book. That's why they call it the first documented possession in America instead of a spiritual miracle. Some time goes by, the 100 days comes up, and this girl says, it's time for me to go. Mary Roff identifies herself again in the body of Lorancy Venom and says, it's time for me to go. The next following day, Lorancy Venom's soul was placed back inside of her body. She lived a long life in California, where then she got married. She had some kids. 2 years ago, I had an event, and I've had events at the Roff House, and I'm having an event this September, where we filmed the thing called The Seance, where I had international medium Diet Renee out on the grounds in October 2 years ago. We had over 150 customers out there, and we did a seance. We did not make contact with Lorancy Venom or Mary Roff, but it was one of the most emotional experiences I've ever gone through. What we did. What's interesting, family members who only found out about this from Lorancy Venom, the second girl, emailed me. And they said only about 10 to 15 years ago, they found out about their legacy of Lorancy Venom. When I met these ladies for our thing called the Seance 2, where it's just these two ladies, the one girl, and I have the pictures, she looked very resembling of Lorancy Venom. The other lady, Dina, Diet actually thought that she was a family member of Mary Roff, which is impossible because they're both great-great-granddaughters of Lorancy Venom. When you look at these pictures, and I can send them to you later, this lady looks just like Mary Roff or has very good similarities. So we started wondering, can possession walk in for over 100 days for a long term like that, change some kind of DNA in the body where she's able to actually take on the resemblance through her timeline and legacy, where she kind of also resembles our girl who was in spiritual form inside Lorancy Venom. It's a very interesting story, the whole thing. When we go inside that house, there is a young lady that's definitely there, never truly identifies there, but she'll give you, she'll start to speak, disembodied voice. Hi, how are you? And you get it when you go inside the house. Not exactly all the time, and I won't say that, but you will get this young lady who does say, hi, how are you? It's a very interesting place.
It'd be interesting to know if Mary Roth had similar like traits or something of the spirit that possessed her.
So Lorenzi Venom was the one who was possessed by Mary Roff. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So what's interesting, I don't know if she had any traits. We did ask that question if something changed. What did happen when Lorenzi Venom gave birth to her first daughter and was going through physical pain? At least this is what is told to me. Mary Roff came back again and entered her body to help her with the birth through the pain. I don't know if that's true or untrue. It's just a story that I was told. That they say it was documented, I think, through Mr. Winchester Stevens, the guy who authored the book Watsika Wonder.
I guess my question is, with the trait thing, what is the connection between the two? Like, why did Mary Roth pick Lorenzi?
I think it's all right. They both lived in the same community, only blocks away. They both had the same clairvoyant abilities, and you bring up a very good point. And I conclude when I talk about this event, when I talk about speaking about it, I believe it's about forgiveness. What happened is Mary Roth was able to be with her parents again. Could her parents have found some kind of forgiveness in life? Could this be a lesson that had to be taught in life? And I'm a big believer in lessons that have to be taught in life. Whereas it had to have happened so people could learn about forgiveness. And it probably also helped the timeline, because originally Lorenzi Venom was going to be put in an institution just like Mary Roth. If she was put in that institution, these great granddaughters would never have reached out to me. It would never have happened. I believe the parents needed to have forgiveness, and I think that happened. I think it was able to establish also the living for Lorenzi Venom to live on, to have a fruitful life. And I think it's because they both share the same clairvoyant abilities that the spirit of Mary Roth noticed this. And I don't know how or why, but I believe that somehow or another, because Asa Roth was the father at the house for that day, maybe in spirit form, Mary Roth was visiting, and she decided to just open up and say hello.
In this story, you mentioned that Lorenzi's DNA was changed.
No. So it's a theory of mine, is that because how similar one of the great granddaughters, who was also to have the same DNA as Lorenzi Venom, actually kind of looked like Mary Roth, our original girl. I find it very, very odd. And so I said, do you think that when a walk-in happens, that maybe it changes something on a cellular level, where all of a sudden that physical ability changed? Because remember, that person's in there for 100 days. So they're expressing all of their emotions from their old timeline. So can their expressions on, like, let's say your expression when you smile is a certain smile, and you have your dimples and everything like that, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, Mary Roth inside the body of Lorenzi Venom is smiling. Could it look different when Lorenzi Venom, when her own soul is inside of it? Can change happen when you have these possessions, walk-ins, to the physical host? It's just a theory, because we were just so thrown back of how close this lady actually looked to Mary Roth. So nobody's ever proven that. But I just always find it such an interesting idea.
That is really interesting. Have you ever come across anything like that in modern times, like recent?
No, I've never ever came across anything like that. It wasn't until I met the great granddaughters, and I was when Diette said, I thought this was Mary Roth's granddaughter, and I said, you know what? When I took the two pictures and I put them together, I said, man, these girls look very similar. And I'll share it with you after this, because I know I have it on my phone. I'll share it with you. And I'm sorry if I didn't send that to you.
It's an interesting story. I don't know. It sounds like it's some kind of like generational curse or something. Could that be kind of like the Bell Witch?
I don't know if it's generation curse. The girls, the great granddaughters, some of them have the clairvoyant ability, like this one lady, but she was she was very sick, but I could tell because I was paying. That's what I do is I pay attention to people, and I was paying attention to the answers when we were trying to reach out for spirits using our chakra box. And when we were doing that, I got more answers, and I was cycling through all these different great grandchildren of hers. We had originally about 6 ladies out there, and then when we came in for the seance 2, we only had 2 of the ladies. And but the one I believe is the most clairvoyant. You'll cycle through people to see what kind of gifts they have, and not each and every one of them has the same gifts.
That's interesting. So moving along, you talk about Bachelor's Grove, and you discovered audio responses that appear to communicate in reverse. Can you walk us through what you found out at Bachelor's Grove? I know it's a well-known place and everybody talks about it.
Mm-hmm. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, which is located off 143rd off a place called Cicero and Ridgeland Avenue. It's in the Midlothian area of Illinois. It's actually only about 20 minutes from where I live, and it's the most haunted cemetery in America, but it's only 1 acre long. And it's really not the cemetery that's haunted, it's the land that surrounds it. What happened is back in the 1950s and 60s, people started noticing blue orbs of light bouncing around in the cemetery area. So what's that going to do? That's going to get interest. People are going to get interested. They're saying, you saw a blue light, you saw a blue light. So people are going to come in there. But with that interest, you're going to get good and bad. And you're going to get people out there with some ill intent. People were out there doing cult-like activity after noticing things like this, where they would try to do animal sacrifices, start digging up some of the graves. So there's a form of possession that is happening on the grounds in Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Instead of a human host, it's the land that is possessed. And I'm a big believer in what I'm about to say. Think of it as these people coming out, and we start with our infestation. Think of it as termites to a tree. These people come out trying to open up things, make that deal with the devil type mentality. We're going to make this deal. And they don't know what they're doing. Not that I do. And they don't know how to close things, but they're doing these incantations. So it's an infestation where these people are infesting. Think of it as termites to a tree. They're all at that tree. They're starting to eat away and eat away. Instead of a human host, it's the land. Then we get into our second stage, oppression. The oppression is now, instead of a human host being broken down, withered away, it is now the land that is being broken down. And when this land is getting broken down, it's getting weaker and weaker. It's all getting influenced by this negative activity that is going on inside this place. So then we now all of a sudden reach into obsession, which then reaches into attachments and possession. I actually knew people who actually live on that land, have quit their jobs, and actually lived on that land. And it's a large forest preserve. People get so obsessed with this place, not each and every person. If you are empathic or have some kind of clairvoyant ability, I guarantee you will get an attachment where you'll start taking on other people's other spirits' characteristics. When you take on other things' characteristics and you realize that is not you, or you're getting angry for some reason, you may have went into a bad place. Not that Bachelor's Groves is a complete bad place. I think this place was actually meant to be a learning lesson for so many people because I believe there's ley lines that lay underneath the whole area. The Potawatomi tribe, Native Americans, lived on that land before people started immigrating into that country. And they have big believers in ley lines. Back to the chakra box. We came across this like so many times. I come across things by accident, but I pay attention. We noticed that on the trail, when I'm using the chakra box, that all the voices were backwards. And I started noticing that. I told my buddy Steve, I said, Steve, that's backwards. All those words, those replies are backwards. I call it mirror zones, where it's an opposite of a place than us. And he goes, let's take it into the Audacity system. So we took it home. And actually, this is actually a much longer recording than what I gave you. It's that's just a small little bit. And these are not things that are clumped together to make it sound good. This is the original, one of the original files. And I tell people to check my work. See if Neal's on some BS. Check Neal's work. So then all of a sudden, we started getting all these replies. So we put it in there. I reverse, and I ran a forward plane. When people are using these spirit boxes and even their recording devices, what you think is gibberish, you may have gone to a place where like the veil is much thinner, and I'm a big believer in frequency. When we start to realize that certain areas where we're getting better activity, we're getting better responses, maybe that veil is thinner, and we need to document what kind of frequency that we need a frequency emitter that emits out into that area and cycle through it and document it to see what frequencies we were getting. And if we're able to do that and we're able to just document some of these areas, can we make better communication? Can we start seeing things? So we use this thing, and when we start paying attention to these voices coming backwards, that's when we did the Audacity thing. And if you want to go ahead and run that video.
Yeah, I'll play that video.
And like I said, this is even the complete file.
Chocolate sign. Single hair, no ye. Sure, you lost your one, your man, what's the dead there? Not even about it.
Angel Michael. I'm straining.
We're the one. We're the one.
Let me tell you. It's just.
Man, there's zero. Said other softy. Said the first up the officers. Sir.
Reinforcing.
Hurry, hurry, you now. Man, there's zero.
Can you close your eyes?
So that's not.
You officer.
Is this? I could use the practice.
Isn't that silly? You don't pronounce it. Doing outside.
Away some of your irritation.
Man or yay. Yeah, I can't sit here outside. Like as we sit.
Thank you.
Wow, Neal.
Yeah, and that's not even the complete file. And that was just one sitting on that trail of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Once again, I tell people, check my work. If you go to Graveside Paranormal on YouTube, it's one of the videos that's down all the way at the bottom because it's one of our original ones. I think it's Direct Spirit Communication, it's called. Take it, pull that audio off of Wondershare, throw it in Audacity, reverse it again. What you're hearing the voices reverse was us talking to them. And then you're hearing these answers. And it's just so amazing what we came across. We were thrown back by that. But it's not the only place where I've gotten mirror zones before. I've got them in many places. And the minute that you're able to recognize, hey, this is a reverse, throw it into your Audacity program. And because if you're going to a certain haunted location and you're thinking, man, I think they were trying to say something, well, check your work. Throw it in on. Reverse
that has happened to me at Goldfield Hotel many times.
Yeah.
Many times. I've gotten a lot of EVPs there, but there's a lot of gibberish too, where I feel like I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it in reverse in Audacity to see what I get.
You never ever know what you would get. I recommend it. It is painstaking to go through it. Yes, because you have to at least have another person listening with you. So you guys can say, yep, that's exactly what was said. because it is amazing when it does happen. I'm a big believer that certain areas are mirror zones, and it's due to environment. When the environment changes and the ley lines, they get activated. Take, for instance, like we were talking about ley lines. Think of it as like a faucet, okay? On certain days, that faucet's open just a little bit, and that dribble of water or supernatural activity due to the environment, either there's a thunderstorm, maybe there's snow, or maybe something dramatic or traumatic happened in that timeline, where now all of a sudden that faucet is on all the way, and we're getting a full stream of paranormal activity coming out of that certain area. So I'm a big believer when ley lines happen, it's through environment, and then you start getting certain good responses like we did at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery.
That's so interesting. I do have a question about some of the responses that you've gotten. Number one, you had your name said many times at
Yes.
Bachelor's. Was that because the spirits get to know you?
To be honest with you, I don't know, because I've gone into places, and the thing that we have called the Anahata Spirit Portal Box, my name is just, it was actually built for me by my buddy Steve. And it works very well with people that are clairvoyant. We actually had a lady who held a conversation with her dead mother-in-law with this box that was built. And it's called the Anahata Spirit Portal Box. And it was just such an amazing video. One of the first times I left Bachelor's Grove Cemetery one night, all of a sudden I hear this young lady's voice saying, "Hey, Neal." And I don't know if they know exactly who I am. I truly don't know. I think there's some kind of a telepathic thing where they are able to find out who you are and know your name. But it also could be because if you go there, like, I don't like going to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want to go to Bachelor's Grove because I get attachments. I start taking on other spirits' emotions. When I take on these other spirits' emotions, it takes me sometimes 2 or 3 days to get rid of that and sometimes you just get sick. And you sit on the couch, you're like, what the holy heck is this? And that place there, if you're empathic, if you have clairvoyant abilities, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get some kind of attachment or some kind of physical thing, or you're going to start hearing your name inside the place.
The other question I had too was the mention of Archangel Michael in this. That's a response I get quite a bit on investigations. Why is that? Why does Angel Michael get mentioned or comes up? Or
so what I think is your spirit guide. Okay. Now, we did have a spirit guide by the name of Christine. I don't know if we still have her or not. We named her Christine. I wonder if that was actually her. I'm wondering if, take for instance, your spirit guide, CL. You believe in spirit guides, yes?
yes.
Okay. Could your spirit guide be talking about Angel Michael because he's a spirit too, right?
Right.
So what happens if all of a sudden they're very familiar with who they are and they're trying to just make conversation, or they're talking to another spirit in the spirit realm? And think of us as just like flies that buzz around them. And they're just talking amongst themselves. Take, for instance, all those replies that you heard, reinforce energy, hey, Neal. What happens if that had nothing to do with me or anybody else, even though there was a hey, Neal? What happens if they were just conversating between themselves and we caught that?
Right. Well, it did sound like a lot of that was going on anyway.
Yeah.
With those responses, like, what was the one? Let's get them. Let's show them.
Let's show them. Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know, like, what happened after that.
You know, I don't know. Nothing bad happened other than the usual. Every now and then you get something like, I'll tell you something. That place there, I really started wondering about doing paranormal anymore because of one night. It was one night. I was actually in the daytime. I took people there to tell them all the stories. And like I said, I don't particularly like going there, especially after this time I did this. I started really questioning what I do. I came home because I worked a midnight shift and I had to take a nap before work. And I had my window open. It was around October. It was a nice October evening. And I could feel something coming inside the window, and it went right up into the ceiling part and then went right into the corner. and I had this uncontrollable shake. Like nothing I've, like if you get the flu or something like that, you have this uncontrollable shake because you have this fever. Out of nowhere, I started having this. And I could feel it in my head. I could see in my head this thing in the corner, but all in my head, not with my eyes. And I remember a guy telling me, this was very early when I started doing this. He said, Neal, have faith. And I'm a big faith-based person. Say by the blood of Jesus Christ, you do not belong here. Go back from which you came. But you can easily say the words, but you have to learn how to project it. When you learn how to truly have that faith in yourself and able to project it, good and great things will happen. I'm a big believer in that. And this thing here, it left, but after a while, I still had a little bit of a shake to me. That's when I started really questioning what I do. It took me a little while to go like this. You know what? Hell, I'm going to get right back into it. But I really did. I really did. I was about to call it quits. I really was.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, me too,
Right?
I guess. Yeah.
Well, you know what? There's another one that you sent me, and it's Resurrection Mary. I think we have time for one more Resurrection Mary.
Sure. Resurrection Mary. This is such an interesting story. It goes off the old haunted hitchhiker. Many states have this. I mean, it goes back to all the way to the Roman era where people started noticing a lady in white, even in buggies and stuff like that, and chariots that they would see on the side of a road. But this one here is a little interesting. A place called Archer Woods Cemetery. Archer Street. Archer Woods Street, yes. Archer Avenue. There are ley lines that are very powerful that are up and down this street where people started. There's so many things paranormal that happens up and down Archer Avenue. That's impressive. It's so impressive. Like those pictures that I sent you of those shadow people, that's where I get all those pictures from.
Do you want me to show them?
Yep. So that's called Archer Woods Cemetery. But back to our Resurrection Mary. So Resurrection Mary, this story started in actually the 1930s of a young girl at a place called the Willowbrook Ballroom, otherwise known as the O. Henry Ballroom back in the 1920s and 30s, up until the 1950s when it changed over to Willowbrook. This girl, this beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl was dancing the night away with her boyfriend, and they were in love. But for whatever reason, they got into an argument like a lot of young people do. They got into this argument. She ran out into the night towards Archer Avenue, where therein she was hit by a vehicle. She was hit by this vehicle and knocked out into the side of the road, where therein she died. So what happened was the police and the firemen called the parents. The parents came. They identified the body, and our legend of Resurrection Mary was born of a young girl, blonde-haired, with a white dress, with dancing shoes and a clutch purse, walking up and down Archer Avenue, looking for her boyfriend or for that last dance. She visits people on the side of the road, and she'll get inside the vehicle. And she'll ask them to drive certain places or in front of a cemetery where then she'll disappear into the night. This is all very well documented. But actually, our origin story is a lie. Of what I just told you is a lie. When people started coming in, and I'm a big believer that started coming into the Chicagoland area and they were immigrating, they brought with them a lot of stories. But what happened was they started telling these stories on a place called Archer Avenue. I believe there's a topo effect that is going on. When this topo effect, for your people, the topo effect is the more and more we talk about something, we bring it to life. And when we have things like ley lines, supernatural realm around there, could we be bringing something to life? What's interesting is that there was actually one girl back in 1934 by the name of Mary Brickovey. This is such an interesting story because this was actually on a show called Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack back in the day. And it's very documented. One of our girls, Mary Brickovey, 1934, about 22 years of age, went to the Willowbrook Ballroom. Like a lot of young girls and guys do, we go out, we go drinking, we go dancing, we have a good time. I know what I did. I did it for years. And they go out there and they're having a good time. But what happens at the end of the night? We got to go to that late night bar, which I've done too. You go out to that late night bar. So they got on Archer Avenue and they started heading eastbound towards the Chicagoland area, which is only about 10, 15 minutes away down downtown area. Now, Mary Bacovi was actually a brunette. She was not blonde haired. She actually was kind of wild. She loved to have a good time. They started driving down there. Car went out of control. They hit an L pole. And she hit the front end of the windshield and she died sometime later after that. She was buried at a place called Resurrection Cemetery, oddly enough, right off of Archer Avenue. She was buried there, and the caretaker who buried her in the ground was actually a family friend. And he noticed what resembled her as walking around her grave after he buried her in that grave. So after some time, Resurrection Mary is starting to take more and more light. There's actually a couple other girls, but I want to stay on this girl here, Mary Bacovi. So this girl here, they're starting to see Resurrection Mary more and more and more every single time. Fast forward to 1937. A guy by the name of Jerry Palis goes to a ballroom in the Chicagoland area that's not too far from the Willowbrook Ballroom. And he sees this beautiful blonde-haired girl in a white dress dancing alone and just standing there and kind of a little dance to her. And for that moment in time, he fell in love. He said, I got to get to know this girl. He goes out there to go talk to her. And he says, hey, can I dance with you? She said, yes. He noticed that there was a cold touch to her. And they started conversating. He said, can I take you home? And she said, yes. She gave him the address of 4611 South Damon Avenue in the Chicagoland area. After he went and did that, he said, can I drive you home now? She said, yes. So as they were starting to drive home, they went down Archer Avenue and they started getting closer to Resurrection Cemetery where Mary Bacovi was buried. She said, let me out here. He said, what? Here? In front of the cemetery? At the gates? He let her out. Why? Because for that moment in time, he fell in love. He just wanted to do what she said. He opens up the door. She walks out. She disappears into the gate.
He didn't have any questions about that?
Get into that. So our Mr. Jerry Palis, like you and I, we'd be like this, holy such and such, what the holy heck just happened, right? Not our Jerry Palis. No. The next following day, because you remember the address, he went to 4611 South Damon Avenue. He got up them stairs. He ran up them stairs, started knocking on the door because he wanted to meet that girl again, kind of like Cinderella or something, right? But paranormal. So he knocks on that door, and all of a sudden, this lady answers, an older lady. He says, can I talk to Mary? She stares at him. How dare you? My daughter's been dead for the last 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
He goes, oh ma'am, I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to say anything, that would bother you. He goes, I was dancing with a girl who said her name was Mary last night. She gave this address here, 4611 South Damon Avenue. She said, she started crying. She goes, please leave right now. As he was about to leave, he noticed over her shoulder on the mantle the picture of the girl he danced with last night. And it was that girl, but she was a brunette. Now, I don't know if something happens in the ethereal realm where all of a sudden people turn blue-eyed and blonde-haired. I don't know. But he swears that was a girl. He gave testimony at a place called Chet's Melody Lounge, which is known for Resurrection Mary coming there. That's why they leave out a Bloody Mary drink every single night for the spirit of Resurrection Mary. If you go to the show Unsolved Mysteries, he gives full testimony of what happened. You can see that there's no shake in him. There's no stop. When most people are lying, they stop and they stutter. Unless you're really, really good at it. And so there was no break in what he was talking about. And I've come across people before who've seen Resurrection Mary. So could this actually be our Resurrection Mary? And could it be the topo effect where we talk about these spirits and we have supernatural ley lines that we are bringing these things to life? And if you want to learn more about the story, guess what, CL? You can come on one of my tours, and I'll tell you a full description.
Which I plan on doing soon.
I hope so.
So these pictures, are these who you think Resurrection Mary is?
So no, so those are taken in a different cemetery called Archer
Okay.
Wood Cemetery off of Archer Avenue. Okay.
I gotcha.
So what I do is I take 40 to 50 people out into the night, and I tell them all night long, take pictures. In this cemetery, Archer Wood Cemetery, you get a whole bunch of shadow people. Go ahead if you want to show one of them, and I'll explain it. So this was taken at night. Whatever effect is inside there from someone's phone or something like that, making it bright. But that's actually taken at night. Everybody I take is in a completely dark area inside of a cemetery. And inside there, you see two of them running side by side with each other. And this place here is actually known for a story of the Wailing Lady of Archerwood Cemetery that is crying at the gate of Archerwood Cemetery. But we came across this where we started finding tons of shadow people inside this place. So that's two running across inside Archerwood Cemetery.
Wow. Yeah, you can see legs and everything in that.
Yeah, they're just running. They're just running.
That's amazing. Now, shadow people, they have like a lot of different theories about these things. Some say that they're demonic beings. Some say that it's somebody trying to manifest themselves and can. And then I've heard that it's somebody from almost like a time slip.
Dimensional, maybe so. Mm-hmm. My theory is that once, like ley lines, I believe it's environmental. Something that's originally transparent, when I think that the environment changes, either temperature or something like that, maybe storms, can they actually change from transparent to a darker form? And I'm not saying that there's not something malevolent about, because like the Hat Man and stuff like that is a different thing than these shadow people here. Back in the 1920s, people were being put in the wrong places because there were gravedigger strikes. Could these be spirits because they were not laid to rest in the right place? Or, once again, Native Americans? Could it also be Potawatomi tribe that you're seeing? One of the pictures that I sent you, could this be actually the Wailing Lady of Archerwood Cemetery? It's right next to that gate. Because this is where she's supposed to be at, crying. Right there. So this shadow person was caught. Once again, I take 40, 50 people out into the night. And we get photographs like this. Not every time. But we get it pretty consistently, especially in the month of October. So could this actually be the Wailing Lady that they talk about that people have seen at that gate right there? And is supposedly crying either for a lost love usually or for a lost child.
Either way, it's pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, definitely fascinating.
Is this other one? Is that part of it too?
Yep. So I don't know if it's exactly the same one, but that was standing next to our bus. And once again, it's the customers who get majority, because I'm taking, like I said, 40, 50 people. You're all investigators for the night, and I explain it very well. Take pictures all night long, but I will not accept anything the next day. You have to show me right there and then. Everybody's going to already know my email address. Now you can send it to me. If I say send it to me, you send it to me. And then I'll go ahead and put it through the conditions to see what pops and what doesn't pop. I think I sent you one more, though.
You did. Let's see where it is. It's this one here.
So this here, this is at that county jail I was telling you about. This is the old psych ward at the county jail. This shadow person was actually seen many times on a thing called Charlie 4, C4. One of the other things I've learned about shadow people, at least for me, is that they're always going left to right. I rarely ever see them move forward or back. How I got this picture was when a building is closed, they have to check for conditions. So they take pictures. And the superintendent at the time, she knew what I did, and she sent this to me. She said, "What the holy heck is this, Gibby?" And I said, "That's a shadow person." I go, "That's probably the one that we used to see on Charlie 4.
Wow. I was just looking at that.
Yeah, you can totally see the legs and the feet and everything.
Mm-hmm. And all of these, you can see that.
Yeah. And I tell people, take the photos. Take them, run them through things. I'm if I don't think something is real, I will not post it. I mean, sometimes I will, and I'll ask people's opinions if I think it's maybe possibly, and I'll listen to the negativity as well as the positivity.
Yeah, see, I stopped posting. I get a lot of stuff too from the desert when I did a lot of investigating, particularly around Goldfoot. I stopped posting stuff because people were too negative with everything. So
Yeah,
I don't even
there's a
post
lot.
anything anymore.
Oh,
It's just for me. But
mhm.
Neal, we are all out of time. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the air with me. What do you have coming up, and how can people get in touch with you?
So you can go to Graveside, that's Graveside SIDE, not Gravesite Paranormal on Facebook, gravesideparanormal.com, Graveside Paranormal on YouTube. Myself, Chris Fleming, Diet Renee, International Medium, Diet Renee, Pete Chris from Northwest Indiana Paranormal. We are going to be doing an event in Watsika, Illinois. I am going to be speaking at the old Courthouse Museum, which actually has documentation of a haunting there, where I'm going to be talking about miracles and benevolence. Chris is going to be talking about the haunting on Park Lane. Diet's going to be doing a gallery reading. And then Pete, Chris, myself, and Chris are going to be doing also the Roff House after 8 o'clock, but that's a limit of just 15 tickets for that and 120 for the Courthouse Museum for the speaking event.
Well, Neal, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
You've been listening to the Gateway Podcast, broadcast from the Bluffs of the Rockies where the strange slips through the cracks, live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. I want to thank my guest, Neal Gibbons. Thank you for listening to the Gateway Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a view, and share it with a fellow traveler of the strange and unexplained. And Neal, until next time, I see you on down the road.